All for joining us today. This is our first attempt in the Brownbag series. I have been requesting this session to be conducted by IIBA for a very long time because it's important that people understand BABOK very well. And if they have a doubt, where do they go? I, being a trainer for almost 10 years now, I still get doubts on BABOK. So please don't think that I don't get doubts on BABOK. And I trust many people who are younger and they're studying BABOK for the first time will obviously have doubts in their mind. We as a trainer community try our best to clarify your questions. And I personally have seen how my understanding of BABOK has changed over a period of time. Primarily because I have interacted with so many students now. I must have taught this topic to 5,000 plus students. So obviously, when you start interacting with the students, they get their doubts, and then you think, okay, why is this doubt appearing in the student's mind? And then you reread BABOK, and then you kind of try to find an answer. I have spent at least about 1,000 hours a year for last 10 years plus on just understanding BABOK, teaching BABOK, writing about BABOK, creating questions for BABOK. So it has been almost like 50% of my life. If I take the entire lifespan in last 10, 15 years, 50% of my life has been devoted to BABOK. Okay, so let's begin and try to understand BABOK. And my intent is to give you a context of BABOK, which will help you to understand BABOK much better. So that's the aim. So I see some of you are from US, some of you are from Canada, some of you are from Africa, some of you are from Europe as well, so which is a nice news. And I'm glad that students from all across the globe are recognizing us, joining our webinars as well. And again, let me congratulate all of you for taking time out. And trust me, have no doubt in your mind that when you complete studying BABOK and you get certified on BABOK, opportunities do open in a large manner for you. We have had students who got anywhere between 30% going up to 100% increase in salary when they completed the course and they got a new job. They also felt a lot more confident at work, which is a nice thing to know as a trainer. Okay. So as I said before, my aim is to give you a little bit of historical brief about BABOK, the context based on which the BABOK was developed, and where do we usually misread or misinterpret BABOK. So if you understand that, it becomes a lot easier for you to understand what is written inside BABOK. And as I said before, I will keep about 20-25 minutes in the end of the webinar to clarify any of your questions. So please put your questions in the Q&A box. I will pick up the questions from the Q&A box and try to answer to the best of my abilities. If I am not able to get any answer to your question, I do have two more colleagues with me who are again very experienced people. They have been part of BABOK writing team. So I trust they will have some answer to your question. Also remember, those of you who are joining this webinar, you can get $1.50 worth of additional benefit. And the coupon code is something that I will give you at the end of the webinar. So just a 1 minute intro about Adaptive US, which I believe all of you must be knowing since you have come to the webinar. We are a leading IIBA EP, and possibly we produce the maximum number of IIBA certifications in a year. We had a global market share of about 7% in 2023, and I sincerely doubt anybody else crosses that mark, because if anybody crosses that mark, we will definitely see that happening on social media, on website and all. And as I said before, we have 1,800 plus IIBA certifications within our company. So that's probably pretty large number. Got fantastic reviews on LinkedIn, website, wherever you go. And we are also proud to have delivered BABOK courses uninterrupted for 50 plus months now. So every month we have delivered at least one BABOK course, maybe more, sometimes two, sometimes three, but at least one we have delivered for last 50 months. Again, just a quick intro about myself. I am a practicing BA for 25 plus years. I am also the first BA in the world to hold all 7 IIBA certifications. It was kind of lonely for some time, but now I believe there are a couple of other more students and participants who have become holder of all 7 certifications, but I was the first person to do so. I also have been part of IIBA standards writing team exam committee as well. And mostly I spend my time in teaching, writing, blogging. Okay, so this is an interesting question for all of you. Some of you must have been through BABOK. So what has been your experience with BABOK? How do you find BABOK to be? Is it very interesting read, very difficult read? How has it been? I will send the PowerPoint presentation if you wish. I believe I will have your email address, so I will send. Not user friendly. Okay. Okay. That's it. Okay. Maybe it's there in YouTube chat you can put, or you can put in Q&A. I think Q&A is something I can always take a look and answer. So let me just give you a very interesting answer to this question. So once I was conducting this BABOK workshop, and there was one gentleman from South Sudan. So he had come down to the workshop, and I asked him, how do you find BABOK? So he had one interesting answer for me. He said, Ellen, the night I don't get sleep, I read BABOK. And the moment where I start reading BABOK, in about 10 minutes time, I feel very nice and I sleep. So that's how he answered me. I said, oh, that's a very interesting use of BABOK. That's not supposed to be the intended use of BABOK, but that's what the answer I got. Okay. So I trust all of you know this standard definition of BABOK. It is an acronym for the business analysis body of knowledge. And it also contains the practices related to business analysis. And this is where the whole confusion starts building up. Okay. So you will find a lot of people calling themselves as business analyst, but practically not doing anything that is written in BABA. You can actually find people like that. And essentially, they deal with things like SQL, Power BI, and all kinds of things, but they call themselves as business analysts. And then I came from a consulting background. And when I came from a consulting background, I had a very different expectation of business analysis. So I was thinking that as a business analyst, I will actually be analyzing the business, understand its performance, try to do something to help it make better. But when I get into BABOK, then I find a very different description. So let's understand where is this confusion coming. And if you get this confusion right, you will actually get a lot of things correct. So this is one slide which I want to spend a little time on. And if you understand this slide, it will probably make it a lot easier for you to appreciate BA. So to me, actually BA is an activity which helps us to improve business performance. That's what we are looking at, business analysis. But then there are many flavors of BA work, as you can see. One of the flavors of BA is to use it during software application development. Okay, and I'll tell you why this flavor of BA became the BA. Okay, it's actually, maybe we should call it as RA-BOK, Requirements Analysis Body of Knowledge, rather than calling Business Analysis Body of Knowledge. Or we could also call it a BRA-BOK, but probably people didn't like that abbreviation, so they changed it to BA-BOK. But there is also a flavor like business data analysis. Okay, and this is quite different. These two activities are not very similar. The tools that you use here are completely different. Okay. Similarly, you could have business analysis, which is focused more on developing software products, not applications. Okay, so you may ask, is a product an application? Yes, but it's a special type of application. And the product mindset is very different from application mindset. Okay, applications are generally custom made, it's made for a client. Whereas products are made for a community of users or a set of customers. So the way you approach product is different from the way you approach application. Similarly, we can apply business analysis in cybersecurity context as well. And one aspect which I have been requesting IIBA for a very long time, we could also apply business analysis in enterprise strategy context. Okay. But in BABOK, we are primarily focused on the software application. So remember, it is essentially a guidebook for software requirements analysis. So if you keep that in mind, it makes it a lot easier for you to read. Instead, anytime you have a doubt why this sentence in BABOK is not making sense for me, please replace the word business analysis with software requirements analysis. Probably you will get an answer to your question. Then, where from this BABOK evolved? It primarily evolved from the concept of SDLC, which I believe all of us, most of us would know if you have been part of IT software. But sometimes people who are not in the software domain, they find it difficult to understand SDLC because for them, probably their life cycles are different. In general, even if you are constructing a house, a building, you will still more or less follow this process. But only thing, the way you document requirements or the way you design a building is quite different from the way you design a software. So if we look at the SDLC, we start with something called planning, where we think, how are we going to develop a solution for our customers? Then we get into requirements. Okay. So this is what actually BABOK is talking about. And if you remember, planning role was assigned to the role called project manager. And then over a period of time, it's moving to product owner. And then there has been standards written for planning and monitoring, like PMI, PBA, not PMI, PBA, PMP, PMBOK. There's also standard called PRINCE. Then for requirements, there wasn't a very good standard available or a guidebook available. So when I started my business analysis career way back in 1996, we actually had one book to refer to. Some of you might have seen that book. It's called Software Engineering by Dr. Roger S. Pressman. That book still exists. And in that book, we had a chapter for requirements, and that was a 30-page document. So we did business analysis as per BABOK by studying that 30 pages. So imagine how much knowledge we had on the subject. We had very little knowledge, and that, of course, resulted in a lot of issues in the project as well. A lot of times, projects will not be successful. I personally had projects where, uh, because of poor business analysis, the client suffered millions of dollars, not thousands of dollars, millions of dollars because we did not do proper requirements analysis. Then this is the space that a lot of institutes have been trying to address. IIB is one of them, BCS, IREB, PMI, everybody is trying to address this space. Then, of course, you have design, architect, so TOGAF, you might have heard. Then we have development lifecycle, then testing and implementation. So our focus is primarily on the requirement side in BABOK. Just coming back to the evolution of BABOK, and from there you can also get some context. The BABOK committee was formed in 2004. So that's exactly 20 years back. The first version came up in 2005. Then the second version also came up in 2005. In 2006, there was an update. Then in 2008, there was some further update. but the version didn't change. Then in 2009, there was a major version change, which is V2. I took my CBAP on V2. Then there was a major change again in 2015, which became V3. So even if you look at 2015, it's almost 10 years now. So things that you're studying in BABOK, it's not that recent, which is what I've been requesting again, IIBA, that it's high time that we update BABOK, because 10 years is a long time in IT. It's not like other industry where things remain more or less same, but for us, things move really at a very high speed. So if you look at the context between 2004 to 2015, what was the dominant methodology that time? Which software development approach people followed in those 11 years? All of you most likely may know. What were the method that people followed between 2005 to 2015? Correct. Anna says Agile. No, Agile is much, much new. Okay. So even I did projects in 2005, 2007. Agile was coming. Means people were talking about Agile, but very few people knew about Agile, and the implementation wasn't there. So Agile actually picked up around 2015 onwards. So it became much more prominent 2015 onwards. But by that time, we have already completed writing BABA. And people who wrote BABA were people like me who were old. No, not young people, because you generally don't allow young people to write a standard. So these set of people who wrote BABOK, they would have started their BA career maybe in 1990, 1995, maybe even before that. Okay, so these were people who were practicing requirements analysis in the 90s. Okay, so obviously they were much more familiar with waterfall. So when you read BABOK, which flavor of business analysis you will see? Waterfall or Agile? Which flavor will you see? Will you see more of Agile flavor, or will you see more of waterfall flavor? Waterfall. Okay. People question me and they tell me, Alan, no, BABOK is method agnostic. It also talks about Agile. It does talk about Agile. I'm not saying it does not talk about Agile, but the focus is probably 80% waterfall, 20% Agile. Whereas in today's world, I would expect 80% Agile, 20% waterfall. So that's something we can keep it for version 4, if it happens. I'm hoping I'm going to meet the leadership team in this month. I will repeat my request. I've been requesting this for a long, long time, that it's important that we give a refresh to BABOK. It's already 10 years old. So a refresh is really needed. Okay, so now you understand. So it is software application development in waterfall approach. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's a very important thing that you should remember. Then what I'm going to do now is to show you two mind maps. And you can see here, I have modified the BABOK diagram significantly. Okay, because this is where a large set of confusions come. So if you read the knowledge areas with the names that I have given here, the content will make a lot more sense to you. So if you look at the first knowledge area in BABOK, which is called BA planning and monitoring, I would request you to read it as requirements planning and monitoring. Okay. Even there also, I find a lot of things missing, like identification of requirement sources. Isn't top down. So there are a lot of things that BABOK should contain, but unfortunately, because there isn't any revision coming in, so those aspects are missing, and it's natural. So please think, I when you are writing a 500-page collaborative document, there are bound to be some misses, but I think we should have a way to um, provide inputs and make it better quickly as we move forward. So I trust that part is clear. So the first knowledge area is about requirements, planning, and monitoring. So where from you get requirements? A large number of them come from stakeholders. Okay. So obviously, stakeholder identification, stakeholder management becomes very important. So I'll show you a mind map which kind of describes the tasks within the requirements, planning, and monitoring knowledge area. Then we come to the second knowledge area, which is kind of quite easy to understand. Uh, so the words which I'm writing in red are the missing words. So read it as requirements elicitation and stakeholder collaboration. It's kind of obvious when we primarily elicit requirements because this is a requirements analysis standard. So that also isn't a big, difficult thing. The third knowledge area, it remains constant, requirements lifecycle management. But the aspect that I see kind of not explained very well, remember requirements lifecycle is actually much, much longer than project lifecycle. It's not confined within your project lifecycle. It does appear within your project lifecycle, but it is also running across the enterprise lifecycle. And this is where I believe BAs can bring in a lot of value because we look at requirements from a very long continuum perspective. We don't only look at the project requirement. Whereas a project manager is possibly just focused on that project's requirements. But we, as business analysts, can take a view that requirements are much longer entities to understand. Again, I haven't made any name change there. Then look at the fourth knowledge area. And I think this is the knowledge area which creates a lot of confusion because when we use the word strategy analysis, a lot of people think we are talking about enterprise strategy analysis, which it is not. Okay. So don't confuse enterprise strategy with this knowledge area. What it is talking of is actually requirements implementation roadmap analysis. Fortunately or unfortunately, BABOK treats strategy almost equivalent to roadmap. The roadmap is one part of strategy. It is not the strategy. Okay, but somehow these two words get interchangeably used, which is where a lot of people get confusion. So here, when we talk about requirements implementation roadmap, it talks of two approaches. It talks of agile, it talks of waterfall. Okay. Similarly, when it talks of planning, it also talks of predictive approach, adaptive approach. That means you can do requirements in waterfall manner, or you can do requirements in agile manner as well. But please read the fourth knowledge area name very carefully and keep this in mind that we are primarily talking about requirements implementation approach. Big name strategy analysis, but this is what we are talking about. Then requirement analysis and design definition is straightforward. There is no change. And if you start observing the amount of time I have started putting the word requirements, you find the name in knowledge area 1, you find it in knowledge area 2, you find it in knowledge area 3, you find it in knowledge area 4, you find it in knowledge area 5. So almost every knowledge area other than the final one, which is more on the solution side, that's where you don't see requirements name. Otherwise, in the remaining 5, you should be putting that requirements word and keeping it in your mind that this is what truly this knowledge area is about. And the last knowledge area is on solution performance evaluation. It's not solution selection evaluation, because you can also have solution selection evaluation as part of your fifth knowledge area. As part of fifth knowledge area, you do talk about solution selection. Here, we are not talking about solution selection, but we are talking about solution performance evaluation. That means, is the solution doing well, or we need to do something to make it better. So this is one slide which I trust will be very, very helpful for you to get a context around BABOK. Okay, so this is again another slide which is a mind map we created along with my colleague, and we almost debated this mind map for 20 plus hours. It might look very simple to you now because it is created and it looks like it's very logical. But when we were trying to create how to put these knowledge areas, um, where to place them, what to sow, what not to sow, because there's so much content in BABOK, and we can't obviously show everything on the mind map. So finally, we decided to put it in this way. This isn't perfect, this isn't complete, but I trust you will find a fairly good understanding, a 20,000 feet overview of BABOK if you understand this mind map. So in this mind map, of course, we have used different colors for different knowledge areas. The ones which you see in red circle are the important inputs or outputs. That's why they are given the red color. The other inputs and outputs are also provided in circular shape. And some of these outputs could feed into many other tasks, especially if you look at the BA approach, which is essentially your plan for requirements analysis. And when I say requirements analysis, it also uh, identification, everything falls into analysis category. So that plan feeds into every other because everything we want to do, we want to do it in a planned manner. Then you will find certain tasks which are kept in parallel mode. That means these tasks can be conducted at the same time, whereas some tasks you will find they're placed in a very serial fashion. That means you don't conduct elicitation without preparing for elicitation. Okay, and these are very commonsensical. I don't think it's rocket science to say I should do elicitation without preparing for it. How much preparation is something that is left to you, depending on your context, complexity. It can vary, but it's always important that we prepare for any activity before we conduct that activity. So that's why you will find set of tasks which are parallel here, like 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. These five tasks can happen at the same time. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 can happen at the same time. But if you look at 11, 12, 13, 14, we have more or less made them a serial. And again, if you come back 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, also say that there is no set order. Okay, so that way BABOK is very smart. But please remember, in most cases, in 80% cases, you can actually follow the pattern. In some cases, I'm not saying in all cases you can follow the pattern, but this pattern works reasonably well. Just that how much time you spend on planning, how much time you spend on elicitation, at what frequency you do that, those things vary based on waterfall and agile. Like in waterfall, we did a month long requirements analysis. Nowadays, that's very rare. So you will typically do requirements analysis for a couple of days. And again, you will repeat it after a week or 2 weeks. So as your sprints move, you keep elaborating your requirements on an ongoing basis. Okay. And then this is another map which we created. And this map is again interesting because this is something BABOK does not recommend. Uh, and there is a reason behind it. Please understand, a task can use many techniques. A technique can be used in many tasks. Simple. Okay, so why are we trying to group techniques as per the knowledge areas? The reason why we have done a grouping is to help you understand that certain techniques contribute more in certain knowledge areas. Like, say, for example, focus groups, collaborative games, these are far more helpful in elicitation activity. Okay. Secondly, uh, one more thing we could figure out by studying BABOK so many times, in BABOK, almost every technique tends to be independent. That means there is no relationship between focus groups and workshop. That's how you'll read the technique. There is a 4-page description of workshops. There is a 4-page description on focus groups. But then we realized that is not true. In fact, there is a lot of commonality that you can find between techniques. And especially when you group them, you find it easy to understand. Like, say, for example, let me take collaboration, group-based elicitation techniques, brainstorming, workshops, focus groups, collaborative games. Now observe them. They are all group activities. Okay. They follow a very well-defined structure to conduct, like identify the objective of the workshop, focus group, brainstorming session, find a group which should participate in that activity, identify a moderator or a facilitator, because in most group-based sessions, you can have conflicts. Natural, no? If there are 10 people sitting in a group, maybe there will be some aspect on which one or two people will not agree. That's very natural. Okay, so having a facilitator is a very appropriate thing for any group-based activity. So you start finding that there is relationship between the techniques as well. And if we could find the commonalities and place it up, then we don't have to study each technique as four pages. We actually can combine all 5 techniques into just about 5 pages. So instead of studying 20 pages, you have 5 pages of content which explains everything that happens in all these techniques. Similarly, when you look at data in requirements analysis, you will find that these techniques actually build on each other. Like tasks feed into each other, techniques also feed into each other, which isn't so obvious in BMR. Like you first create a concept model. From a concept model, you go to data model. From data model, you go to data dictionary. Okay. So you can actually see a very clear pattern which techniques should be used when. You don't use all the techniques all the time. So there is a proper sequence that you can follow while using these techniques. So this is something I also realized quite late, but I'm glad I realized all these, my understanding mistakes over a period of time. Okay, so I will just take a 2 minute intro about what we do to help you in your business analysis career journey. And I believe all of you know, we, as a provider, we provide pretty good quality content. Our content is used by 2,000 plus universities in the US and many other training partners in Australia, in Europe, in Canada, other than we ourselves using it. We do provide you expert mentors, and then we are very glad and happy that our approach has been working, and that's how we have a fantastic success rate. And you also may know that we provide not three, 4 guarantees for all our students. 3 are mentioned here. One, we have a success guarantee. So as part of success guarantee, we offer you 2 free retakes. Our sessions are guaranteed to run, and there is also a money back guarantee. Although it says 1750, I think we have crossed already 1800 certifications as of last week. These are my colleagues who teach this course along with me. Laura Patton happened to be BABOK chairperson, also PMI PBA chairperson. So you can imagine the caliber of the person when 2 competing bodies agree to have the same person as their core chair for the this thing. Then you have my name. Victoria is currently on the board of directors, and she also happened to be the ex regional head for IIBA Europe. Laura has been my colleague for about 5 years now. Tom, of course, teaches most of our non-core courses. He's a very data enthusiast, so he mostly takes care of our data and product practices. If you are still not convinced about what value IIBA certifications can bring, please take a note of this link. This is where you will find people who have described what they have achieved. And these are people you can go ahead and find them on LinkedIn. And you can connect with them, talk to them, absolutely no problem. And this is one interesting resource that we created for our students. It's free. So if you are planning to take any of the IIB exams, just download it. You will get a flavor of how the question complexity is, how do you feel about the question. Usually there are 3 levels of questions, one simple, one medium complex, and one very complex. So depending on the standard that you are going for, You may be asked simple questions or medium complex and complex questions. This is the webinar code that you can keep in your mind. You can write it down. It's very simple. ADA stands for Adaptive Web. This is the webinar that we are running, and it's 2404. So if you purchase any of our courses using this code within next 1 week, you get 1 month free extension to the product, which usually costs you $50, $40. For some courses, it could be $30 as well. But minimum you'll save is $30. Good. So now that I have explained things to you, let me go to the Q&A. And what I'm going to do, since there are a lot of questions, I will try to answer them from the bottom. Somebody asked, can the code be used for people who have purchased the course? No, it's for new purchases, so it will not be applicable for you. Okay. Andranel, it is okay if even if you don't have BA experience. There is a course and certification called BA Bootcamp coupled with ECBA, which are for people who have no experience. So there are three standard levels, beginner, mid-level, and expert level. And we provide training and certification for all three. Okay. So one of you again has asked Power BI and all. We do have a course which covers Power BI and all those. So if you're looking at a data analytics course, you should look at our data analytics bootcamp, not the BABOK bootcamp. BABOK bootcamp is probably for people who are performing requirements analysis, not data analysis. CBAP scoring, I really don't know. I believe it's incorrect versus correct. So if you get a question right, you get 5 points. If you don't get the question right, you get 0 points. That is my belief. Okay. Okay. Wow. Somebody said it was born in 2003. Okay. IIBA. I was more focusing on BABA. Yeah, it's 2003. Okay. 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 One question might come to you, is BABOK still relevant? Okay, let me tell you, whether you follow waterfall or adaptive, 70% of things that you will do will be similar. Just that the way you do things will be slightly different, especially from a planning perspective. But otherwise, elicitation, stakeholder collaboration, modeling, they all remain similar, not same. As I said before, I would still love BABOK to become a lot more agile, but that's not something which is controlled by me. So in this BBC, again, I'll be meeting the leadership team. I will make my request once more, and I'm hoping this time they'll listen to me. Okay. Okay. Waterfall, waterfall. Okay. Any other question? Okay. Here has an interesting question. The problem identification and acceptance of the problem is something that is not discussed very well. I'll tell you why. Because usually the software projects follow a business analysis phase, which is more like enterprise strategy analysis, which is typically done outside the software project. Like, so for example, I'll give you one personal example for that. So we had a client, not mine. I was working in a company, and the client was a large retailer, very large retailer, and they had 7 or 8 systems, each system catering to one line of business. Okay. So they had one system for their stores, one system for their restaurants, one system for their operations in France. And obviously, having 8 systems makes it very hard for the company to run itself. It's expensive, okay, to maintain 8 large systems. So this is when the management decided to engage with a consulting firm, saying, what should we do? So the consulting firm comes in and it looks at the problems and says, okay, it looks like you guys are stuck with very old technology. why don't you migrate all your systems to a modern ERP? Okay, so that part we did not do. So that part the consulting firm did, and they selected the ERP for the client, saying, go with Oracle Apps. Okay, and then we got in. So we were more or less uh, had the problem identification, need identification, need validation done before we got into the project. That's how most software projects begin. Software projects usually don't start with the complete need identification phase. Some can start. I'm not saying it cannot start. And typically, that need identification, need validation might have been done by the CIO of the company, CTO of the company, and then it comes into and somebody is identified as a sponsor, and then the sponsor basically drives the project. So we typically don't get into that phase as software requirements analysts. But as a true business analyst, you can get involved. Okay. Then, okay. Kristen, I can send something for you. There is a book that we wrote together with about 100 BAs. It's called Strategic Analysis Body of Knowledge. I will send you a link for that and you take a look. This is what I have been requesting IIBA to consider as an extension, that the extension that is missing right now, but they refused. Okay. So maybe I'm thinking of going with another organization, work with them, because IIBA may consider it as like a competition. So I have to be careful. 90% of my business comes from IIBA. Okay, then, okay. One of you asks, can you apply BABOK to non-software? Very limited use. In fact, I got a request from a construction company saying that teach us BABOK. I said, your methods, everything is so different. No? The way we design a software isn't the way you design a building. Building design has many other considerations. Although requirements phase exists for them also, design phase exists for them also. But the aspects that they look for in the requirements is very different. When you are constructing a building, your considerations are very different from when you are developing a software application. Okay, so don't try to adapt BABOK to software. Although I believe that there can be a core business analysis standard like PMBOK. If you look at PMBOK, PMBOK is not only for software projects. You can apply it to construction, any sector, but we haven't made that way. So I believe there should be a core BA which should be domain agnostic. That means you can take it, you can apply it in hospital, school, software. It should still apply. But that's how we have to kind of think of a core, which is not so software driven. Okay, then let me look at one more question. Um, okay. Vikas has a good question saying large companies don't follow BABOK. Uh, they may have their own method, no? Like IBM has its own method called GS method. So Accenture has its own method. Oracle has its own method. Uh, so it'll look similar. Don't think that it'll look very different. And I think because you are looking at these companies which are new as companies, their lifespan is much shorter. They're not very old. And most of them might have been adapting more towards agile way of working. So they may not be referring to BABOK as much. Okay, so if you are a company which has been there for 100 years, you must have experienced BABOK quite well. But if you're a company which is 20 years old, uh, your activities might be a little different from BABOK, no? Because as I said, BABOK is almost a 20-year-old standard. If not 20, at least 10. Okay. Then, okay. So you want some examples and all theoretical. Yeah, it's okay. I would suggest you something. Before you read BABOK, there is a core standard. The core standard is available for free to study. So read the core standard before you read BABOK. Don't jump into BABOK without reading core standard. And those of you who are planning to take IIBA certifications, we do provide BABOK study guide, which is aligned completely to the exam. So if we have written a standard for ECBA, so we make an abstract of BABOK applicable to the ECBA certification exam. So we remove things which are not needed for ECBA or CCBA. We write it in that way. But for others, I would still suggest start with the core standard. It's free. And then if you read the core standard and then go to BABOK, it will make a lot more sense. Okay, then let me go up. Glossary, user-friendly, very difficult to read. Okay, chat is disabled. Okay. So I think, okay. One of you said, where can I find the core standard? Let me show you. It's very simple. Go to Google. Let me come out of this. Just go to Google and look for BABOK core, not BABOK, business analysis core standard. Just type business analysis core standard. That much you type, and then you come down. You'll see some advertisements, don't worry. Okay. So this is the one, the global business analysis standard. And what you have to do is you just have to sign up. It's free to sign up, and then you will get this standard. In fact, my request has been to enhance this standard. This is about 50 pages, and this does not contain description of techniques. It only contains description of tasks. So if we include description of techniques into this standard, this could be a good basis for ECBA, the first level certification. We could base it on this standard instead of asking a new BA to read BABOK, because BABOK is very hard for a new BA. Again, this is a request that I'll make it to the IIBA leadership team. If they agree, very good. If they don't agree, I have no choice. But nowadays, they generally agree. Like I remember I made a request to IIB leadership team about 2 years back to reduce the content for ECBA. Earlier, the entire BABOK was being asked for ECBA as well. Then after request and discussion, they dropped two knowledge areas. So that way the content for ECBA actually was reduced, and it made it a little easier for new BAs to understand BABOK and go for the exam. So that's what happened. And I'm hoping that I will get some good response from them as well. Okay. Then let me see. Indy. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I think Indy is also here. I generally use the standard and guidebook interchangeably. That's my fault. Please treat BABOK as a guidebook. And of course, you should modify it. But generally, this is the experience that I have with my IBM job as well. So I'll tell you that experience. When I was in IBM, we had 29 templates being used for managing our projects. And all these templates were in MS Word. Those of you may be familiar with Microsoft Word. So project managers used to struggle quite a bit because you have to maintain 29 documents for each project. Then I went to my department head and I asked her, um, can I change these Word documents to Excel? Then she said, yeah, you can. Okay. I was surprised to hear that answer. Then what I did, I took these 29 Word documents and converted them into Excel worksheets and put all of them in one Excel workbook. Okay. So the project managers were so happy because now instead of 29 documents, they're just dealing with one document. The approach allowed, just that the team that created these templates never thought about it. They thought we are writing standards, templates, guidelines, whatever you call them. and people will adjust. But why? Why can't we write it in a way that it makes it easy for people to follow? Okay. So that's what I remember from my Babak experience. I always believe whatever we create, we should create it in a format which is directly usable, lot more usable than kind of asking everybody to rethink think so much. Then why would we have guidebooks? No? If I'm allowed to think myself and do everything, guidebooks are not necessary. Guidebooks are essentially helpful for me to guide my work. And in 90% cases, it should work as it is. I don't have to worry so much. In 10% cases, of course, I should modify the guidebook and apply to my context. That's my personal take. I could be wrong as well. Okay. Then, yeah, one of you have said that AAC is based only on Babak extension. Yes, I agree. AAC is more on agile, but it's still kind of little bit disconnected from what the world follows. The world follows Scrum, and you can see the statistics. We don't talk about Scrum in agile analysis as well. So we probably have to align ourselves a little bit more to what is happening in the industry. No, I mean, we can always take a theoretical stand. This is what should be done. But what's happening in the industry? And obviously, industry won't be completely wrong. The industry is very large. You know. There are probably 100,000 projects being done in a year, maybe more. And if 75% of them are following one approach, that approach must have some value. Otherwise, so many people will not follow something blindly. That is what is my belief says. Okay. Uh, okay. Okay. Christopher, um, if you have studied BABOK and you've done ECBA, I believe you'll get fairly good inputs on developing certain BA processes for your unit based on BABOK, or you could also follow some other framework as well. And keep the processes simple to start with. Make sure that it's not overly engineered because over engineering doesn't help usually. So keep it simple, start forming the process and then observe how the process is doing. If the process is doing well, very good. If not, then tweak it and make it better. That's what is agile and adaptive about, no? Start small, experiment, see how things are going. If things are not going somewhere well, then you tweak it to make it better. Good. So I think I am trying to answer as many questions as I can. Uh, okay. Liu, okay. Where do you recommend to get the latest update on Babok and BA techniques? Babok is there on IIBA website, not website, means in the shopping area. I would always recommend if you are not a member of IIBA, please be a member. Look, it's one of the best investments that you can do for yourself as a business analyst. Two, three things. One, as a member of IIBA, you do get significant discount on your examination fees. That's one plus point. Secondly, you also have access to the IIBA library, which is a huge collection of books. It's tremendous amount of books that you can get on IIBA library. I have used some of these books for my consulting work. Like I remember, I got a request from a client to do some work on benefits realization management, and I had very little clue about it. So I got a book from IIBA library. I read that book, and by understanding that book very well, I could do that project for the client. So same thing applies to you as well. Then you also have IIBA member only webinar. It's a great forum to interact with so many business analysts. And because I became a member of IIBA long, long back, uh, and my good fortune, I probably know about 5 to 6,000 business analysts around the world. I would have never got to know so many people. And literally, I say today, almost in every part of the world, if I go, I will find one of my students. So that's a good thing happened because I got associated with IIBA. I started teaching BABOK, so I could build a lot of connections around the world. So be a member of IIBA, take benefit of the discount scheme, take benefit of the webinars, the content. It's an amazing investment. Okay, then let me see. If you're starting, look for ECBA. Okay. One of you have a question about BABOK and product owner role. Uh, so there is a guidebook from IIBA other than BABOK, which is on product ownership. So please understand, a product owner role is a combination of business analyst role plus project manager role. Okay. So it's a slightly evolved role from a BA perspective. So whatever knowledge you have gathered as a BA, it's not going to go west. But you also have to top it up with more of project management, stakeholder management skills. So the skills that you learn in BABOK will still be valid. It's just that the role is a bit more compared to just a pure business analyst role. Okay. Then let me see if I can get any other question answered. Mm, okay. We are recording the webinar. So if you have joined the webinar, we will definitely share the recording with you. Don't worry. Whoever has registered for the webinar, we will send the recording. Okay. Someone has asked, do you have an installment plan? We do have. The best people to answer commercials is commercial team. Write to them. They will respond. Okay. Oh, okay. Lalit has an interesting question. We do provide training anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter whether you are in US, India, Australia. We have sessions timed for every region. So you can join wherever you are in the world, as long as you have a stable internet connection. Okay. If you are a seasoned BA, you can always go for CCBA CBAP. You don't have to start with ECBA. One more question. Christopher says, how often ECBA certifications are offered? You can take it any time of the year. They are all available proctored online. So from your home, from your office, you can take it anytime. You have time and you are prepared. Okay. One of you have a good question. Standards are far more rigid in a sense. Guidebooks are a little bit more flexible. That's how the distinction comes. So the standard is much more compact. If you read, it's only 50 pages. The guidebook is far more expansive. It describes things in a lot more vivid manner. So if you want to understand the standard, the guidebook will help you. But this guide standard is more like procedural kind of thing. Do this, do this, do this, do this. Okay. The guidebook will throw lights on how to do it. There could be many ways to do it. There could be many techniques available to you, which is not there in the standard, but it's there in the guidebook. But you will find a lot of overlap. Bound to be, no? Okay. Prashant has asked cost of CWAP training and certification. Look at our website. Uh, okay. One of you have asked, what is the good study technique to understand BABA? Read the core standard, read our study guide. Our study guides are far, far more simpler compared to BABOK. But of course, read BABOK before you go for the exam. But if you start with the core standard, it makes it a lot easier. I will share the two mind maps, don't worry. So whatever I have put it in the presentation, we will send it to you. Okay, I think I have tried to answer almost every question. Uh, is there anything? Oh, okay. Indy says she is fully supportive of the need to modernize and update. I totally agree, Indy. I trust the leadership team listens to it. Okay, thank you. Then good. So somebody says PO is written very well. I'm glad you liked it. We do provide the course in French language as well through a partner, but only for ECBA, not for others. So if somebody is looking at French, I can always connect it to our partner in Canada who can teach in French. One of you have asked the schedule for ECBA. There is no certification schedule. You can take it anytime. We do offer the training once in a month. Okay, good. So I think I have tried to answer almost all the questions. I will anyway go through the chat again, maybe tomorrow. If I haven't answered any question, I will answer. Okay. Thank you all for joining us today, and I wish all of you very good luck in 2024. Those of you who are planning to take the IIBA test. If you need some further help, do let me know. My email ID is very simple. It's LN, L for London, N for Nancy, @adaptiveus.com. That's our domain. And I'll be happy to assist you in any way we can. Okay. Thank you and have a lovely day. Bye bye.